يتدبرون القرآن
ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Surah An-Nisa, with verses that takes us from one set of rulings to another, from one benefit to the other. Such a great and a blessed surah, like the whole Quran, something for us to give attention and to think and to ponder and to learn, and with the intention that we really want to apply the Quran in our life. And one of which is for us to see the benefits of Al-Iman, the benefits of being steadfast on the truth, to be believers, and how the benefit of it is in this life and in the hereafter. Although the hearts are attached to the hereafter when it comes to matters of Iman, matters of faith, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His mercy, He gives the believers in this life what gives them steadfastness and patience because of what they feel and they know in their hearts while following the truth. It's not just about feelings, it's because they know for sure that they are on the truth, and the only way to know that is by following the Quran and the Sunnah, the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way it was practiced at the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam. So we'll discuss inshallah ta'ala in this episode 3 verses that talks about the contrast between believers and disbelievers, and the orders from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the believers to fulfill the matters of trust and to judge among people with matters of justice, because indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us for all that is perfect. And these verses are from verse number 56 to 58, 56 and 57 and 58. So let's start with verse number 56 from Surah An-Nisa. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الذين كفروا بآياتنا سوف نصليهم نارا كلما نضجت جلودهم بدلناهم جلودا غيرها ليذوقوا العذاب إن الله كان عزيزا حكيما. Which means, indeed, those who disbelieve in our ayat and our verses and signs, we will drive them into a fire. Every time their skins are roasted through, we will replace them with other skins so they may taste the punishment. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted in might and wise. And then after that, we'll talk about the believers. But first, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, indeed those who disbelieved. This came after the set of verses, as we talked about it last time, that talked about the disbelievers and their evil acts. And we learned that these evil acts, it's important for us to avoid them and to stay away from them, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned them and cursed the disbelievers as a result of these evil acts. So then after that, showing the status of the disbelievers in the hereafter. They were arrogant in this life. They thought that they have, as if when they're acting foolishly and arrogantly, as if they have a part of the dominion of Allah. They can give whoever they want, whatever they want from the mercy of Allah. And after hearing all of this, then the Quran takes us to the hereafter, as if we are in the hereafter witnessing what's going to happen to the disbelievers, so that we have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that we stay away from the ways of the disbelievers and not to imitate them. And also for us to have the concern towards them, that they need to embrace the truth, to call them before it's too late. If they're still alive, that means they have a chance to embrace the truth and to follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ. So in the hereafter, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, those who disbelieved بِآيَاتِنَا. They disbelieved in what? In the verses, in the signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They did not believe in the universal signs of Allah. And this is a very important point when we say بِآيَاتِنَا, because the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the plural of ayah, which is a sign or a verse. We call the verse of the Quran ayah. They believed in the ayat of Allah that Allah created in His universe. They believe in the night and the day and the earth and the skies, and because this is something that they see with their own eyes, their own selves, and how their body is created and so on. They believe in all of this. But this is not enough. This is not enough to save them from the hellfire. And what is meant by the ayat here is not these universal ayat, it's what is meant is the religious ones, is the ones in the wahy, through the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't argue, meaning the disbelievers, with the ayat of Allah. They don't say why the sun rises from the east and sets in the west. They don't say these things. They humble themselves. They submit themselves. They try to explain maybe how and why and so on, but they are in state of submission with these ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Each and one, every one of them, they're so arrogant, but when they are born, they don't remember when they were born, and so on and so forth. But what do they argue? They argue with the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is in His wahy, in His revelation. And you would see how evil that is. They should have humbled themselves as they are with the universal signs, that they should humble themselves when it comes to the wahy, to the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and submit themselves willingly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as a result of that, then their severe punishment is in the Day of Judgment. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِنَا سَوْفَ نُصْلِيهِمْ نَارًا سَوْفَ نُصْلِيهِمْ نَارًا. We will, and that's why it's in the hereafter. Sawfa is something about in the future. Nuslihim, that means we will drive them. Nuslihim nara, and we would make them taste and be burned in fire. Naran, which is the hellfire in the hereafter. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said something about what's going to happen in the hereafter in the hellfire. These disbelievers in, or the human beings in this life, if somebody or something is burned, once it burns, it's finished. And if someone dies by being burned in this life, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all Muslims, the pain that a person goes through is only the pain, and it's such a severe pain, but only once the skin is burned, then there's no sense of pain because the nerves are burned. So there's no pain anymore, because how people would feel the pain is through the nerves that is under the skin. So once the level of the nerves is burned, when the bones are being burned, they don't feel the pain anymore. So in this life, the pain that a person will go through as a result of being burned, which is a severe one, but it's a very short period of time. That's by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if that happens. And with that, as the Prophet ﷺ said, if a believer dies as a result of burning, he is a shaheed, he's a martyr. Why? Because of the severe pain, and this is such a difficult test for a person to go through. But in the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to clarify this thought, maybe some of the disbelievers will think, as it's mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah and others, when some of the Jews, they said, وَقَالُوا لَن تَمَسَّنَا النَّارُ إِلَّا أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودًا, that the hellfire would only touch us for a few days and that's it. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to them that in the hellfire, in the hereafter, the punishment will be totally different. كُلَّمَا نَضِجَتْ جُلُودُهُمْ بَدَّلْنَاهُمْ جُلُودًا غَيْرَهَا لِيَذُوقُوا الْعَذَابِ. Every time. نَضِجَتْ meaning roasted or cooked. Right? When something that you put on the fire, it's raw, and then it becomes cooked or burned or roasted, whatever. So the same thing for the skin of the human being. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying something very clear, very graphic, for us to have an idea how the punishment will be in the hereafter. كُلَّمَا نَضِجَتْ جُلُودُهُمْ. That means when their skins, جُلُودُهُم, their skins is burned, totally burned, which is the meaning of نَضِجَتْ, بَدَّلْنَاهُمْ جُلُودًا غَيْرَهَا. We would replace it by another skin other than the one that got burned immediately. For what reason? لِيَذُوقُوا الْعَذَابِ. For them to continuously taste the punishment, taste the torment of the fire. And you can imagine such a severe pain. And that goes on and on forever. So someone that is tasting the pain of being in the fire forever, for what? Is it worth it for a person to be in this life ignorant and disbeliever? And when we are warned, we are being warned in this life from the hellfire. It's not like it's a surprise. We are being warned, and one verse after another, and we are ordered to do what is good. The matter is not difficult at all, and people still choose to be arrogant and to be disbelievers. So this is what is the type of punishment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed these verses to make the human beings concerned, yes, to have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a good thing if it would get the person to be steadfast. It's not meant for itself. Fear is not for the sake of fear, but fear for the sake of being steadfast on the truth. So you can imagine how the skin will change. So once the source of pain, which is it's in the skin, which is another miraculous thing in the Quran, because how will people know that? And this is something that is known scientifically, that it's under the skin, which is the nerves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will exchange it, will change it by another set of skin, so that لِيَذُوقُوا, so that they would taste the punishment. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَزِيزًا حَكِيمًا, that indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the Almighty, the All-Wise subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is Al-Aziz subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody would defeat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These disbelievers that they used to think when they were on the face of earth that they can defeat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wal-'iyadhu billah, that they can deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they can do whatever they want. They can burn people, they can kill people, they can do whatever they think. They have a control over whatever they do. See the punishment in the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Inna Allah kana azizan hakima. And one of the outcome of Al-Aziz, the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the most wise, that He does not punish them immediately when they commit crimes on the face of earth. That the punishment does not come immediately. No, they are given time. Given time so that they think that they're all that, and they have control, and they have ownership, and they can do whatever they want, right? And then how long? How long, or what is the longest time that the worst tyrant on the face of earth lived, or the worst disbeliever on the face of earth lived? 80, 90, 100 years? And then what? Then he is gone. And what happened to the generations before? Those who were all over the place, and all over the news, and those who before them, and those who before them, passed away. They do not exist. You do not hear a whisper from them. You do not see a footstep from them. They are finished, they are gone, they are in their graves. They're probably now bones, if not even anything. Why? Because this is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. Did they win anything? Did they gain anything? What happened to this tyranny and all this fame that they had, and all the different meanings of joy that they thought that they having with means of disbelief and tyranny and so on? It's all finished. So when people will come in the Day of Judgment, would then the regret benefit them? None would benefit them. Inna Allah kana azizan hakima. Allah is the Almighty, and He is the most wise subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now the implication of this, we still have it. We're still alive on the face of earth. This is the opportunity for us to get lessons from this, that this is what's going to happen in the Day of Judgment. So we need to be among the other group, and to protect ourselves from this evil group, the disbelievers, and at the same time never be deceived by the strength of the disbelievers or those who are wrongdoers. It's just a matter of time, and they are all returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when justice will be served. Then on the other side, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the believers. Verse number 57. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سندخلهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا لهم فيها أزواج مطهرة وندخلهم ظلا ظليلا, which means, but those who believe and do righteous deeds, we will admit them to gardens beneath which rivers flow, wherein they abide forever. For them therein are purified spouses, and we will admit them to deepening shade. So the contrast, the other side, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, the first ones that received the severe torment those who disbelieved in the ayat and the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is the criteria for those who enter Jannah, the everlasting joy, the everlasting reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Those who amanu wa amilu salihat. They believed and did righteous good deeds. This is what we need to have the focus on. Belief and righteous good deeds. Believe in their hearts. How would they believe the right way? By the Quran, by the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Pillars of Al-Iman, pillars of Al-Islam. To believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the proper way with His names and attributes, that He is the only one worthy of worship, that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is the final messenger of Allah. To believe in the angels, the books, the last day, the qadr, the destiny of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angels and so on. To believe in all the things that is unseen to us. And they did righteous good deeds. They fulfilled the orders of Allah. Whenever the order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes, they were patiently fulfilling that and staying away from what is evil. What is the reward for them? سَنُدْخِلُهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ. We will admit them. سَنُدْخِلُهُمْ. This is again in the future. Not now, but in the future, in the last day, not in this world. They would enter, they would be admitted, Jannat, gardens. And the significance of سَنُدْخِلُهُمْ, the scene is in the future, right? What is the significance of this? Let's discuss that inshallah ta'ala after the break. So stay with us inshallah.
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن أفلا يتدبرون القرآن.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Verse number 57. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَنُدْخِلُهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ. Those who they have the faith, belief, and they did righteous good deeds, we will make them enter. And the scene means in the future, meaning in the last day. As it was said for the disbelievers, سَوْفَ, we will, meaning in the hereafter. The significance of this, that some people, and I hope that this is become very clear when I explain it, some people, the religion to them, they want the immediate joy and the immediate reward. And to many people, this life is what is their goal and their means and everything. So if the religion does not give them whatever they are seeking in this life, then they become depressed maybe, or they would have bad expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or maybe even leave means of steadfastness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is promising the believers in the hereafter. So this is what we need to have our hearts attached to. This is the covenant that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that the believers, when someone is embracing Islam, is not about having food and drink and shelter. It's about saving yourself in the hereafter from the hellfire. That's the covenant of faith. Then after that, whatever goodness happens, it happens by the will of Allah, yes. But to promise people, first and foremost, materialistic things on the face of earth in return of Iman, or if they are faithful and so on, this is deceiving people. And some people, they do this. And they think that this is one of the means of da'wah, one of the means of calling people to the truth. They would tell them, if you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have abundance in everything, in matters of this world. Yes, sure, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised the believers such a way. But the abundance that would guarantee for them to fulfill the purpose of their life. So the rewards are only to be sought in the hereafter. And the same thing, the punishment, the real punishment will be in the hereafter. So this life is nothing but a test. So when we are promised that the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be superior, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give victory to His religion, this is true. But does it mean that it has to be in our lifetime? For us, it really doesn't matter. We would like, of course, for this to happen. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most wise. We are nothing but slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do what we are ordered to do, and definitely that has a share of the overall benefit and the overall victory, but each person will come in the Day of Judgment alone, whether they fulfilled the purpose of their life or not. So the believers, they always remember this, that their hearts are attached to the hereafter, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make them admit to Jannah, and once they put their first foot into Jannah, all the worries goes away. all their previous miseries and hardship and patience and everything, all of that is replaced with an everlasting joy. So it's worth it. And they would say certain things, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran. They would praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that saved them from the agonies of this life, the ones that bestowed His bounty on them when they admitted the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once they are admitted, they are in everlasting bliss and joy. Never changes. It increases actually day after day. And they go from one joy to the other. And whatever they wish for. And the least person that would be admitted to Jannah, as it's mentioned in the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the last person, the least person in Jannah is the one that would be given 5 times multiplied what this king of a world would have. And then he would be given the like of it, and the like of it, and the like of it, 5 times. And then each time he would say, Raditu ya Rabb, I'm pleased, O my Lord. And then he will be given anything that he asks for, he will be granted. Anything that he seeks, he will get. Right? All of this, and it's an everlasting joy. Imagine this life with all its miseries, but you are given a life on it forever. That by itself is a great joy. Right? But imagine then with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised the believers in Jannah. No miseries, no pain, physical pain, emotional pain, nothing evil whatsoever, no bad smell, nothing whatsoever would disturb the people in Jannah. All of what in return of what? Belief and do righteous good deeds. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most wise. He created His creation for that purpose, because He's the most wise subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the human beings, they should humble themselves to the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what the verse says, سَنُدْخِلُهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ, gardens, plural tense, تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارِ, underneath which rivers flow. And we talked about that before. It doesn't mean that it's covered, meaning underneath it, but it's like when you see the river, it's under the level of the earth or the surface, as a way of a means of pleasure for them. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَبَدًا. Khalidin means that they would be there eternal life. No end to it whatsoever. And it's stressed with abada. Abada means everlasting. So sometimes maybe the word Khalidin might mean a long, long, long life. Right? But to make it very clear that it's not just a long life and it will be terminated, it's something that is an everlasting life, never ends. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of all things. Even if we don't comprehend it in this life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, and He's the creator of all things. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَبَدًا, everlasting life that they would be in the Jannah. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا, in it. لَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ, as it's mentioned in the hellfire, a specific punishment for them with the exchange of their skin. Now a specific reward and pleasure that the people of Jannah would receive. لَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ, that means that for them therein are purified spouses, the Hur al-Ain, for them in the Jannah, a means of pleasure for them. Because Jannah has the ultimate pleasure, and this is something that they used to feel the pleasure of it in this world as one of the most joyful thing in the world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a result of that, would give them the like of it, but even nothing is the like of it whatsoever, which is in Jannah. And وَنُدْخِلُهُمْ ظِلًّا ظَلِيلًا, and we will admit them to deepening shade. Shade that is, ظِلًّا is shade. نُدْخِلُهُمْ, we will admit them. ظِلًّا is shade, ظَلِيلًا, ظِلًّا ظَلِيلًا, that is not just shade, but it's a deep shade, shade after shade, shade on top of shade. When you see in this life with all its deficiencies, but you see the trees are so into one another, and the shade sometimes is extended, but you can imagine, and nobody can ever imagine what's in Jannah, that its shade is deepening, such a deepening shade that it's all from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After these two clear verses from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that comes before it the verses about some evil acts for us to avoid, and then after that in the next verse, which is verse number 58, something that get us ready to another instructions, another acts of worship to be done, another rulings to be done. And the recital of the Quran that get these meanings and this belief and this good feeling about the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the fear from the hellfire, then that person is ready to submit oneself to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will order him. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would order him afterwards to give up his life, he'll be willing. Why? Because of the great reward. But you see, then the next order is something that is good, something that is pure, something that the reciter of the Quran, anyone would get to know this, he would say, this is such a beautiful thing. I wish I can do that. And that's why the orders of Allah is always good and pure and perfect and easy also for those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy. Verse number 58. إن الله يأمركم أن تؤدوا الأمانات إلى أهلها وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل إن الله نعم ما يعظكم به إن الله كان سميعا بصيرا. Which means, indeed, Allah commands you to render trusts to whom they are due, and when you judge between people, to judge with justice. Excellent is that which Allah instructs you. Indeed, Allah is ever hearing and seeing. So after hearing the rewards of the believers and before that the punishment of the disbelievers, now the believers are ready to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with more rulings. And what is the ruling? إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تُؤَدُّوا الْأَمَانَاتِ إِلَى أَهْلِهَا. That indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders you. So it's not a human being. It's not a king or someone like that of this world. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most high, the most merciful, the most wise, the almighty. If we remember these things when we talk about the orders of Allah, then our answers definitely would be extremely different. When we call people to this and when we see the situations of us as Muslims, right? When we're ordered to make salah, and when someone is neglecting his salah, does not perform the salah, does not establish the salah in his life, and when that person is told that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The most merciful, the one that is more merciful to you than your own self, the Almighty, the one that is capable of all things, the one that created you, the one that is the king of all kings, the owner of all things. He's ordering you to establish the salah. Would that person then would say no? And it's all this lack of having this remembrance and the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why when we think of this, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ, it is not a human being, it is not the righteous person, it is not the caller of the deen of Islam, is not the scholar, is not even the messenger. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that created you. So the deen is not the deen of those who are righteous. The deen is not the deen of the people that have beards and they're calling. This is the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the deen that we are responsible to apply in our lives in the most perfect way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering us. How can then we stay away? And you see the misery in the Muslim world nowadays. And you would find religious people and non-religious people, as if this is something valid. There's no such a thing. We're all supposed to be religious people. We're all supposed to be righteous people. Yes, this is the nature of life, that you would find some people adhere to the truth more than others, but when it becomes part of the norm, and that means that everybody is okay. You can be a Muslim, you can be a liberal, you can be this and you can be that. What is this? You cannot be like this. We have to be all Muslims. This is enough. It's enough statement for all of us to be all under the fold of Islam, and to be righteous, and to all follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Not a group of people, but all of us to follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ, not to divide the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, but to all follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ, because all of us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us. He's the only one that ordered us. And that's why we should not be divided as a result of this. But the shaitan works, and our egos and all kinds of things, and this is part of the test on this face of earth. So that's why it's so significant to ponder over these orders of the words in the verse of the Quran. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed is ordering you. And that's why for myself and for everyone that is listening now, we have to think of this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering us. So how can we turn away? You feel lazy, you feel like your situation is different, you feel like you are in need of money. Who is the owner of all things? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered, that means everything else will be made easy by the will of Allah. Or if it's not, you have nothing to do but to listen and to obey. Because who ordered us? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not a human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna Allah ya'murukum. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering you to do what? To kill yourself? No. To give up all of your wealth? No. And He's the owner of all things. If He ordered us to do these things, He has the right. But see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us? He ordered us to do what? And to أَدُّ الْأَمَانَاتِ إِلَى أَهْلِهَا. That you would render trusts to whom they are due. To fulfill the trust, to render it, to give it to those who entrusted you. And to addu. To addu means that you render, that you give, that you fulfill. Al-amanat. Al-amanat is the plural of amana. Amana is the trust. So to give the amanat, the trust, the things that you are entrusted to do or to fulfill, ila ahliha, to its people, to the ones that entrusted you with. Someone entrusted you to keep money, for example, with you. And now he's back and he wants his money back. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering you to fulfill that and to render it and to give it to the person in full. And while you have it, it is not permissible for you to betray that trust, because He entrusted you to keep it, to save it. So if you are in need of money for an emergency and you take from it and you think, oh, I'll put something back in return of it, but just tomorrow or after tomorrow, it's not permissible. Even if you know for sure that you would do this, you have been entrusted. And the ulama, they say, with speech and actions and everything. If a person entrusts you, tell you, please send my salam to such and such, and you say, I will, that's a trust. You have to make sure that you send his salam to such and such. If you say, if I see him, if I remember, that's different. But if you say, I will, then this is a trust that you have to fulfill, and so on. So any means of trust to human beings, and to imagine if the trust is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have been entrusted with this deen of al-Islam. We have to render our trust. We have to hold fast to our trust, because we will be asked about it in the Day of Judgment. The same word amana was mentioned in عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. That indeed we had presented the amana, the same word, the trust, to the heavens, to the earth, to the mountains, but they refused to bear it, and the human beings are the one that bore such an amana, and indeed they are ظلوم, and too much injustice and too much in ignorance. So we have to fulfill. Salah is amana. This salah that we establish is amana. Did we do it or not? Siyam, fasting, doing the good deeds, away from bad deeds. The deen of al-Islam is an amana. So we have to fulfill it. And more, inshallah ta'ala, with this verse after the break, so stay with us, inshallah.
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن أفلا يتدبرون القرآن.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Still with verse number 58 from Surah An-Nisa, and the order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inna Allah ya'murukum. And there's a reason why we're repeating this, because this is such a significant thing that I hope that we always remember, to fulfill the amanat and to give it to its people when it's time to do that, when it's due. And that the overall amana that we've been entrusted with this whole religion of Islam, that if you are a Muslim, you have a duty as a Muslim to give victory to the deen of Islam, to be steadfast on it, to be proud of being a Muslim and a follower of the Prophet ﷺ. So to give the amanat, or to render the trust to whom they are due, إلى أهلها وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل. Another thing is, and that is, when you judge between people, to judge with justice. If you're ordered to judge between people, and people sometimes they have disputes with one another, then to judge between them with al-adl, with justice, not with injustice. Because it's either adl or dhulm. It's either justice or injustice. And there are so many reasons why people would commit injustice. Although human beings, they love al-adl. They all claim to be just people. But why then many people, they would fall into injustice? Whether it's because of a gain, a materialistic gain, or to push away harm that might afflict a person, so they would treat each other with means of injustice. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, when someone judge among people is a judge, there are three types of them. Two of them in the hellfire and one in Jannah. Two of them in the hellfire. The first one is the one that judged between people without no knowledge. Without knowledge. You have to have knowledge. Judging between two people in a dispute, that means this person has to have the knowledge of the deen of Islam and what they are coming with their case and so on. So judging between them without knowledge, this is a judge that is from the people of the hellfire. The other type that is still from the hellfire is the judge that judge among people with injustice, that he treat them with injustice and make the stronger win, or the one that have more money, or the one that would threaten him, maybe, whatever there is. So that also from the people of the hellfire. And the only type of a judge that would be among the people of Jannah is the one that judge among people with knowledge, and he is just. With knowledge, and he is just, and that's definitely is needed in the life of the people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering the believers, وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ أَن تَحْكُمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ, that if you judge between people, then judge between them with al-adl. If you do not know, then you stay away from it. Why? Because it's a heavy responsibility, and that's why the early generations of Islam, they used to run away from such a position, although it's such a prestige to be the judge and so on, but they used to run away from it, especially when they know that others can do the same job. Why? Because of the heavy burden that they put themselves into. And this is the case of any form of a high authority. We as Muslims, this is part of the deen of Islam. People, they have to have a leader. People, they have to have a judge, right? But is it something that people should compete to be the leader of their countries or to be the judge and so on? No. In Islam, you're supposed to run away from these positions. But of course, not every single person, so that means it has to be given to certain individuals. So when something is given to someone, that means it will be given to someone that deserves it. Someone that has the means to fulfill it in the most appropriate way, because it's a trust. But in reality, it's a burden in the Day of Judgment, unless a person comes in the Day of Judgment that he was just and he fulfilled it in the right way. And that's why if a person is not seeking it, and it's given to that person because he is the one that fits the position, he will be helped by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when someone seeks it and people compete to achieve it, this is against the deen of Islam. Why? Because if people know what's the burden of being in charge, leaders and so on, if they know the burden of it, they would run away from it. Unless, again, a person would take it with its rights. And that's why one of the 7 types of people that will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when there is no shade except the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet ﷺ said, the first one was Imamun Adil, a leader that is just. He is getting that much reward because of his justice. But again, it's not something for a person to seek or to run after. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allaha ni'imma ya'idukum bih. That excellent is that which Allah instructs you. Ni'imma. Inna Allaha ni'imma ya'idukum bih. And you see the word ni'imma, how is it said with the shadda on it? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would instruct you something that is excellent. No faults in it whatsoever. Something that would even fit the nature of the human being. And with that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns the people when they break the orders of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only ordered us to do what is right. So when we see people not dealing with each other with justice, when we see people not fulfilling the amana and the trust, then this is not the religion of Islam. This is the fault and the acts of the people that are committing sins. And that's why some people, they become fitna. They become one of the things that makes people reject or turn away from the deen of Islam. When they look at some of the Muslims and they see them that they're breaking their trust, they're lying, they're committing so much injustices, and they would say, how can you do this? And they would not even get to know about the religion of Islam. The religion of Islam ordered us to do the opposite. So why people are falling into these sins? Because shaitan is working. Because the human being as a deficient creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is deficient in the sense that it's weak, but it needs to have the upbringing and the strength. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He honored the son of Adam by what? By listening to the orders of Allah, by being patient, by facing temptations and passing these types of temptations by being steadfast, obeying the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, And even if it's against yourself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the believers, as it will come in the Surah An-Nisa, to order the believers to be just even if it's against themselves. Even if it's against themselves, even if it will cause loss unto you, but you have to be just and you have to fulfill the amana, even if it's against your own personal interest. Why? Because this is deen, this is religion, and you would treat people the same way that you would like for them to treat you, not the greed that people are living with. No, the religion of Islam calls us to purify ourselves from this greed, and instead to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to follow the truth, and to hold fast to justice even if it's against our own interest, our own people, our own tribe, and so on and so forth. Inna Allah ni'imma ya'idhukum bih. That excellent is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructs you. And ya'idhukum comes with the admonition that the orders from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes from also with it the reminder that if you hold fast to the orders of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would reward you. And if you would turn away from the orders of Allah, that means a severe punishment. A person would subject himself to it. Inna Allah kana sami'an basira. That indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kana sami'an, sami'an which means ever hearing, and basira, and seeing. These are two attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, comes with it, two names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as-sami' and al-basir. And almost every verse in the Quran, a lot of verses in the Quran would end with some of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or some of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we have to believe in it. We have to understand the meanings of it, and to believe in it in the proper way, of course, without distorting its meaning or resembling it to any of the attributes of the human being, without denying it, and also to act according to what these attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Sami', that means He's the ever and the all-hearer. That means He hears everything. He hears what we say and everything that we do. So that means we have to be watchful of what we say, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as-Sami'. And this is the benefit of believing in the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He is al-Basir subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the ever-seeing. And He sees subhanahu wa ta'ala everything, even the things that we don't see. So we have to be watchful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala no matter what situation that we are in. Any place that we are in, if a person is committing sin or doing a good deed, they don't wait for the seeing of the human beings. It's enough for them to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing them. So they would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accordingly. They won't commit the sins, and they won't abandon the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a result of that. So when we look again into this verse, before we summarize what we mentioned, the two issues or the two main things that have been mentioned here that we are ordered to observe, that many subjects and many rulings and many chapters and matters of fiqh is mentioned with regards to these two issues. It's very important for us to understand them and to apply them in our life with the different situations that we have. First of all is to fulfill the amanat to its people. And we talked about the amana being something that you're entrusted with it. It's not something that you own. So something that you're entrusted with it, that means you keep it as it is. You don't treat it as this is your ownership. And in that case, part of the implications of the amana, by the way, or the ariyah in books of fiqh, that if something bad happens to it, you have money for someone that you is keeping for that person in your home till you come back from traveling, and you're taking care of it, and you put it in a safe place and taking all the means. And for some reason, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid, something happened, the house burned, earthquake, and the money is lost without any shortcoming from your side. You're not responsible to bring back the same money because you have been entrusted. And if you have the responsibility to give it back in that case, nobody would accept to be entrusted with anything. The same thing, you give someone something to take it to another country for you, right? And if it's lost on the way, not because of your any shortcomings, you're not responsible for its loss. But if it's something else, if it's taken as a loan or something else, then it's different. And the difference between both is when it's a loan, it's your ownership. You own it, you benefit from it. So as a result of that, you would have the daman and the guarantee of it. But when it comes to something that you're entrusted with, then this is different. And that's why these rulings we need to learn, And we need to be aware of these types of things, and before we do it, should ask the people of knowledge and make sure that we're doing it according to the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Beautiful verses that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit from it and to make us among the believers, that we heard their rewards, and to stay away from the characteristics of the disbelievers, and to give us the justice and to fulfill the rights of others, and to fulfill the trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted us with. And we continue inshallah ta'ala with more of the orders and the calls from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the believers. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا.
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا.
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا.